Hey everybody, how's it going out there? I'm great. Not really, because I just deleted my original wrap-up, so I'm a little bit pissed and I have to do this all over again. So, yes, I have to do this all over again. But before I kind of tell you what books I read for the month of March, I do want to apologize because I did not do actually a lot of videos for the month of March. I was kind of in I was a little bit in a slump for that month, and but I did good on my reading, which is great. That's what I needed to do, and reading was kind of one of the reasons I didn't do any videos, uh, so again, I apologize. Like I said, I did pretty good for the month of March. I read a total of 6 books. I wish I kind of did a little bit more, but what can you do, really? If you guys watched my TBR video, I pretty much have read what I read on that video, almost, and I'll explain right near the end of the video, so you'll find out. But the first book I'm going to show you, it wasn't really on my TBR video, but this book I actually started reading in the month of February and finished it in the beginning of the month. So I finished Under the Wide and Starry Sky by Nancy Horan. Was the Today Show, the morning show book club pick. This was their third pick. And yes, I do participate in this, so I thought I'd give it a try, see if I liked it, and it was okay. And the reason I say that is because this book has, it's a historical fiction, but it's also a kind of a romance, love story type book. And with those two together, it was a little bit kind of boring. But the reason why it kept me reading, though, is because it did have a little bit of truth to it. Because it is based on these two characters who are actually real life people. One of them is a Scottish author. His name is Robert Louis Stevenson. You might know books by Treasure Island and The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think that I have it in the right order. I kind of get it mixed up, but I don't know. And he falls in love with this American woman, and she's in Europe with her 3 kids. But the thing about her, the scandalous part, is that she's 10 years older than he is, and that she's also still married. And she's in Europe, kind of getting away from her womanizing husband. So that's kind of the reason why they kind of start off with this love affair of theirs. So it is, like I said, kind of based on a true story, but not really, because there is fiction to it as well. And I gave this a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads, so it was okay. Okay, so I am going to show you these next books. Actually, there's 3 of them here, and they're all from the same author. And I really wanted to read these books once I got these books. I got these books last month, and I just really need to read them. These books were actually kind of in substitute for the year-thon, because I didn't participate in March, because they did Twilight, and I did not want to read Twilight, so I kind of did a little bit of my own read-along. So I read books by Victoria Schwab, and she has now become my new favorite author. I just love the books. This one was a reread of mine, and let's see, and that would be The Archived by her. This book was even more better than the second time I read it. I love the originality of this book. This has just become one of my favorites. I just loved it, and I love the character of Wesley. He's pretty much now my new fictional character, crush, whatever you want to call it. I don't normally go with guys with guyliner, though. And there was a read-along in this book which hosted by Jesse the Reader, but I kind of actually forgot about it. Don't hate me. Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that. So the archive is basically a place where the dead are kind of cataloged, organized, kind of like a library type, and I got a text. But you don't normally call the dead, you call these the histories. These histories actually wake up, and only if they're disturbed. The more younger these histories are, the more easier they awake. And they kind of end up in a place called the Narrows. The Narrows is kind of like an alley-like place, and with a bunch of different doors, and these doors can lead to, well, a lot of them are locked, but one door can lead to the archive, the other can lead to what's called the returns for the histories to return, and the other is for the outer area for reality here. And the story really centers around a girl named Mackenzie, and Mackenzie she's called a keeper to the archive, and her job is to return these histories to the archive in the return door. And her job is very secretive, so you can't really tell. And it's a little bit complicated for her. So I really love the story. If you have not read this book, I'm going to force you to read this book because it is just so good. Like I said, I love the world building. I love how it is written. It's very well written, actually. And yeah, 5 out of 5 stars for this on Goodreads. And of course, after reading the archive, I had to read the sequel, The Impound, and this was, again, really good. Love the world building in this one. A lot of different situation in this one, and I can't really say too much about it because it is a sequel. So I'm going to say 5 out of 5 on this one, and that's all you're going to get. And last of the Victoria Schwab books, I have picked Vicious for my last book of the week. And this book is what really got me into Victoria because this type of book is kind of like centered around the theme of revenge, and I really love that theme. And it just blows your mind. I like when there's twists in it, and I think there's some twists in here. I can't remember. Oh my god, I forgot about it already, but it was so good though. I do know it is really good because it kept me reading, and I could not put it down. I just really wanted to know what happens. The story is about these two kind of former college roommates named Victor and Eli, and they kind of experiment with a theory that Eli came up with, basically how an extraordinary, who has abilities, superpowers, how an extraordinary becomes created. And these two experiment with that. And succeeded by that, but for Victor, it had to take him a little bit longer. He becomes a little bit more obsessed about it, becoming what you call an extraordinary. But once he succeeded that, something bad happens, and it made Eli kind of turn his back on him, and Victor was sent to jail. 10 years later, Victor goes out of jail and starts seeking revenge on Eli. He wants him dead. Try this book as well. I heard nothing but great things about this book. I loved it, and I'm one of them, and 5 out of 5 on this one. So continuing with pretty much my TBR, I read Cress by Marissa Meyer, and this is the 3rd book of the Lunar Chronicles series. Oh, okay. And Cress is basically a retelling of Rapunzel. And if you have not read the Lunar Chronicle story, these stories are basically retellings of, different fairy tale characters. The first book, Cinderella, is basically... The first book, Cinder, is based on Cinderella. The second book is called Scarlet, and it is based on Red Riding Hood. And of course, Cress, like I said, Rapunzel. And going to say too much of this book, because it is the 3rd book. I did not realize once I got it, it's like the biggest of the series, because the story is actually, there's a lot more happening in this book than the rest. So it is, I think, the best of the series. Cress, what I could say about Cress is that she is a hacker, and she is trapped on a satellite. 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. So this is where I'm going to have to explain to you, because I made kind of like a little bit of a last minute decision. I said I was going to read the 5th book of the Song of Ice and Fire series, which is Dance with Dragons, Game of Thrones type. And I wanted to read that before the season premiere from the show, but there was another book I ended up looking into, and I was checking to see if my library had it, and sure enough they did. And I click hold. Of course, now since I clicked hold, I had to go pick up the book, and then I had to read the book. But I don't have it really with me because I finished it right at the end of the month. And the book I finished reading was called The Golem and the Genie by Helen Wecker. And this was actually a pretty good, enjoyable book, I thought. I gave it 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. I will let you know that the Golem is not like the Golem in Lord of the Rings. This Golem is actually made of clay, and she's a female, of course. Genie, of course, is the male, and he is actually made of fire. So the story is basically that before these two actually meet, they end up in New York from different places, and due to kind of certain situations they've been put to New York. But in New York, they kind of have a hard time fitting the lifestyle of how a regular kind of human being works, or they don't really understand how a human thinks really, so it questions them a little bit. And then one night they meet and they become very unlikely friends. If I am not making sense, I am sorry, because this book was pretty large and very well detailed, so it is a little bit hard to explain. It is a fantasy book, so if you want a nice fantasy book, I actually kind of recommend it, because I thought it was pretty good. It is a little bit hard to kind of get into, but I kind of get into it. So give it a try. So that is all the books that I read for this month, and I don't know what else to say actually. So if you like the books that I've read for this month, like the video, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.